It's finally time to start firing up the grill. From city to shore, Acme is everything you need to prep for this summer season. Download the Acme app to shop for this season's essentials any way you want. Open the Acme app, clip your deals, then order your items online. An experienced Acme associate will carefully select your groceries, bag your order, and bring it right to your car or deliver right to your door. Download the app or visit acmemarkets.com for program details.
Hi there, I am Adam Kivas. This is another episode of my podcast where we analyze hate. We're still in the pandemic. I am here in Turkey, in Ordu, in my hometown, and this is on a damp July day. We try to figure out how we can make sense of the feeling of hate. I mean, the last time we talked about antagonism, that you create your identity according to others, and that we some sort of said that circumstances lead to you to create a counter culture. And this counter culture is rather some sort of reaction to the prevailing assumption that you are being outcast, whatever, or that you cannot take part in the society. So exclusion or whatever we talked about, derogatory terms, which, for example, Turkish migrants in Austria as well as in other parts are being stigmatized, and this is in a way considered as a positive acknowledgement by the Turkish community, and we say that aggression, I mean, this is very common. Turkish migrants or any foreigner whatsoever is always been considered aggressive, violent, and so on. I mean, this is something you hear even by false trials or by sham trials, whatever it is. I mean, Austria is a shithole. This is beyond the word. I mean, I said this over and over time. It is a deplorable state in Austria. Racism is rampant, and of course, in this climate of rampant racism, one thing is predominant, and this is the perception of foreigners as violent, as dumb, whatever, or as not even human. However, this leads to a counter identity, and this violent, or how you are being perceived as violent, is then some sort of switched values as a positive attribute, and that you then consider yourself as manly, or that this is interpreted as valuable in your own case, and in your own community, because this leaves you and gives you the opportunity to compete with others for acknowledgement, for resources, and so on. I mean, of course, this is not only in the Turkish migrants as well. I mean, this works the other way around as well. I mean, this is what we talked about, male culturalism. I mean, the other way around is the assumption. For example, this is what you can find a lot in Austria as well as in Germany, that the presumption that Germans and Austria are superior, that they are better than everyone else. So this so-called Aryan race, and that they always have to prove that they are superior, that they are better than all others, and this even led to the fact that when a foreigner appears, these people are doing anything to ensure or want to ensure that they are still above foreigners, whatever. And this happened to me. I mean, you would see then all kinds of Austrians and as well as Germans coming along, standing in front of me or whatever, and then presuming that they were my superiors, and so on. I mean, this is what is happening very, very often. I mean, this is point blank racism. I mean, this is it does not make any chances, or it doesn't make any difference when it happens by left taste. The only reason why we are not talking about it as racism is because it was conducted by the left, because it is a big issue within the leftist community whatsoever, that they are prone to racism, or that they are prone to exclusion, and this had very, very nasty effects. I mean, one nasty effect, I mean, these people, they do not hold back from anything, or that these people are ready to do everything. This is what I then saw, and this is what led me to the belief that these people are, or in general, that I despise Austrians as well as Germans. I mean, I talked a lot about my hatred against them. It would not make sense. Or it is of course part of this analysis as well, that we go and understand hatred. However, what I want to talk about is of course the processes of this association chain, which we said creates identity antagonism, and we said that antagonism alone in a way does not really lead to hate. It may be a displeasure with your situation. I mean, this is partially been told in rap music, rap songs. However, that you are being outcast, that you have disadvantages, whatever, and then this value system then is turned upside down. I mean, we talked about the ghetto and how you are being how you have to live as an outcast. And this is actually something dire. This is something bad, especially in North America. North America is one of the wealthiest region of the world, and that there are still areas in this country, assumably, which are like the third world, which are low income, and violence and so on are rampant. And then you see, especially in those rap videos, that these dire cases then being transformed as a positive attribute, as being manly, because you manage to survive these things whatsoever. And this is actually very important, how you could partially understand the mechanism of this creation as of your identity, despite the fact that you are an outcast. Normally, everyone would assume that this is pretty much depressing, living in the ghetto. Again, I don't know what it is like to live and grow up in the ghetto. I grew up in Austria, in rural Austria, on the countryside. The only thing I can talk about from my own experience are racists trying to lynch you. However, but in order to understand the mechanism, or why would anyone even appreciate this, or some sort of turn those values and would make out of a negative value something positive. And it is not only one issue, it is as many issues. I mean, this is what you see here in the rap videos, and as well as we talked about in the male culturalism, that you then create some sort of a new form of manliness, toughness, and whatever. And this comes, of course, with a value system of success. And this is for the fact and the origin of this system. And this system is not only your personal imagination. This is as well as you always find this in many social systems or social groups, whatever. For example, and that every social milieu, every social class, whatever you want to call it, has certain things. You have to go through conflicts. I mean, you have to manage your life if you are from the middle class, if you are from the upper class, whatever. That there you have some certain obstacles. You have some issues which you have to solve from and this is as well as in the poor groups, poor classes, no matter whether you live in the ghetto or in rural Austria. However, what it is, one thing the first thing is survival. I mean, survival is, you can say, yeah, it is some sort of a basic means in the ghetto. Survival means not being shot or not become a drug addict or not go down a certain road, whereas survival in the middle class can as well as mean being accepted, being able to maintain friendships. I mean, this is very important because the social, the middle classes, especially the upper classes, they build a lot of friendship, and keeping other people around you or being able to keep other people around you is not only about survival, it is about wits, it is about smarts, and about your social skills. I mean, you have to have some social skills to make friends. It is difficult to make friends, especially friends you can trust with, and those friends, of course, later on they help you. They help you to build a company and so on. Or what is very common among the migrant communities, that people help each other out and so on. And there, of course, if you then look in poorer neighborhoods as so on, of course, there are a lot of temptations, whatever. And if you then some sort of survive, succeed in a way to stay alive, this is something valuable. This is something you have accomplished. Or staying alive in that sense, if you, this is partially you see in rap videos, but as well as we have statistics that gang violence of all means are very high. I mean, if you only see in some places in Latin America where the per capita death rate is very, very, very high. I mean, then there you can count yourself lucky not being shot at, not being killed, and so on. I mean, of course, this is a different perception of success. Nevertheless, in this community, this is in this poor neighborhood, favelas, the hoods, whatever you want to call it, one great success is of course survival, and this survival then is attributed with value. This is what you hear and see in the rap videos, and this value then is or being able to survive is then contributed to be tough, to be manly, to be at the head of your game, whatever you want. I mean, this is what very important, and this is how then value created itself, how you have accomplished something, whereas in the middle classes or in the upper classes, it is rather your connection. If you have a lot of connection, if you can have a lot of people you can depend on. I mean, one reason or one good aspect of this is, for example, if you want to raise money for your company, or if you want to found a company and you need to raise money, this is very common in the US. And then, of course, it makes a lot of sense, or is a huge advantage that you have that you are well connected, that you have people you can count on, and so on. And this, and of course, we talked about that as well, the association chain, or your identity, how it creates, how it constitutes yourself. It is then you need it. It gives you meaning. It gives you identity, and it really helps you. I mean, it is what we always talk about, us versus them. This is or in the post-structuralism. This is the other which helps you a lot to, or which is a part of your identity, which helps you to constitute your identity, or is the reason why your identity is constituted, and so on. And of course, if you want to sum this up, then we already said it. I mean, it is your social circumstances which are the engine for this, and this is as well as important that in this antagonism that you seek equality, same opportunities. This is what we said in Germany and in Austria. Those Austrian and German men, we said it from a male perspective, that they have special resources. This education, Austrians and Germans are being considered mostly more smarter, and this goes up into the university. This is deep rooted in the mind of very many people, especially as well as in the left. I mean, these people think that all foreigners are all dumb or stupid, and then they would need Austrians or Germans to handle this. I mean, this is pretty much this is deep rooted, and this then, of course, constitutes some sort of leads to a goal, and this is what we will talk about it as well a little bit later. And this means that this antagonism, this creation of it always serves a purpose. It never creates something. I mean, if we talked about it from a male perspective, then of course it is about getting something, getting an object which then underlines your manliness. I mean, this could be a car. This is what we talked about, a car. That a car or a good car is an extension of your wealth, but as well as something what the society expects from you as a man. I mean, being fluid, being able to afford, being studious, being as well as dominant. I mean, in a society where people still expect that men lead. Of course, everyone assumes that you are the boss, the chef, or whatever. I mean, this is indeed very, very, very crucial, especially in lower parts of the society. This happened in Austria as well as, I mean, all those white people, all those other people, they all came along and they always wanted to be the boss, the head, and so on, just to get this feeling of superiority back, because this is what they all wanted. I mean, if you're a white supremacist and if you grew up with the notion that that you are above everyone, that you are superior to everyone, then of course if another man comes along, especially a foreigner, a non-white or whatever, I mean, whiteness, like I said, whiteness in Europe is rather an issue. It is questionable and mostly not evident on your colors of whiteness in Europe, because in continental Europe the black population is not as much as or there are not as many blacks as in the US. In continental Europe, there are a lot of people from the Middle East, and in the Middle East, I mean, these people count as white. No matter what you say, I mean, it may be exemptions, but however, the Middle East is a white, or at least Mediterranean looking, and you are white. However it is, but so the main difference is culture. People make the difference of culture, and however, I mean, when we stay 56 example, and you could see that these people, that these Austrians as well as Germans, they always needed to assert themselves. I mean, they grew up with the perception that they would be superior to others, and then this is being under conflict, and this conflicts with reality, and in order to help them to maintain their perception that they are superior and above foreigners, then they become your chefs or whatever, or they dress up as authority figures and then harass people. This is actually very common in this despicable Austrian state, and it's not going to change. I mean, this was the case before the Holocaust as well. I mean, this is just Austrian deplorable Austrian culture. However, it isn't. However, it is. However, but you see that this is a necessity as well as a goal, some sort of a pleasure. It gives you pleasure. You can maintain your identity, and this is very, very important for you, and it is as well as very important for us to understand hate and anger, especially the hate then indeed goes beyond antagonism, because antagonism is with this pleasure. This is true because this pleasure which then raises a counter culture, which in a way has its own values, which helps you to maintain or find your place in your own society from which you are outcast. But again, this counter culture, this is what we try to pinpoint with the association chain. This is never something which you individually create and then live by, because then you would, if you would create an individual counter culture, then you would not have anything that approves you or appreciates you. You need this approval, you need this appreciation, you need being part of it, and this is something you can only accomplish in a group, in a society. And this counter culture then has some developed some mechanism which help you to find your place, and this is very, very important for you. So, because like we said, you cannot go on and live like being an outcast, especially if you listen to hate speeches in Austria as well as in Germany. I mean, these people straightforward consider you as low life, or even they go so far to attack you, assault you. Believe me, if you feel how acid burns through your flesh, this is pretty much nasty. I mean, if this burns through your skin, acid, then this is pretty much real, that someone went through a great deal to put acid into your shampoo just to hurt you severely. And then it is even more hideous that these people, these scumbags, because someone who does this is a scumbag, a despicable creature, that this scumbag is not even prosecuted. So there's obviously, and we talked about this, obviously Austria is a failed state, a despicable stain on human conscience, and I have nothing as deep hatred against this despicable country, their depraved culture, and their despicable language. However, it is, I mean, I'm always trying to some sort of rein in my hatred. My hatred is indeed real after what happened, and I don't, and nothing is going to change that. I mean, I hate Austria. I always hated it. I despise this. I just despise them, and I hopefully, and I do not believe that these people will get justice on normal channels and basis. However, but in order to continue, let's some sort of differentiate between hate and anger, which I think is some sort of a summary, and then we will some sort of continue and then ask. Of course, we have to ask, can't we just avoid it? I mean, one thing is, of course, what we said over and over again, and this is that anger needs the existence of others, and we came to the conclusion, and this is still an assumption, is that hate does not need the existence of the other, that hate despises the existence of the others. So if you want to hate, cannot live with the other. For hate, there is no coexistence with the other, whereas anger still needs the other to constitute its own identity. Anger is the antagonism may arise from this pleasure. However, like we said, it is important to create identity. I mean, one thing, of course, we have to ask ourselves. I mean, this is indeed, antagonism is something again which we as well see and saw that this builds up on a time you do not create antagonism because you are rebuffed or something. You do not create hate or hatred just because of one occurrence or one single incident. These are incidents which has been going on for a while, which and of course which may not even happen to you alone, but to others as well. I mean, this is what you find if you're excluded from a society. Think about the black community or the Afro-American community in North America who live in some areas, in very dangerous areas. Then of course your vicinity helps you to create an understanding of your world and from your surroundings. And of course we have to ask ourselves, why can't you just avoid it? I mean, is there not a way where you some sort of remain just with an aversion? Aversion would we said is just if you turn away. I mean, you dislike it. This is something you cannot change it in a way. You don't have to like or love anybody whom you don't want to. But is there not a way to just avoid it? I mean, and this is then a question which then depends. I mean, depends in that sense whether you have some other resources which makes it possible for you to avoid these issues. I mean, this is I talked about it. If you are a carpenter, as a carpenter, it is very difficult because then you have to compete with all those intellectuals or whatever. Whereas if you're a graduate or if you attend university, it is easier to get approved. And this is what we will have to talk about as well, the goal and the purpose. I mean, what has this to do with goal and purpose, and how do we have to understand this, because this depends a lot from your goal and purpose. But however we want to say it, I mean, it depends in that sense. I mean, if you're from a poor neighborhood, whatever, then manliness and your moral ability or what you have on your skin or your physical ability may be the only thing you can some sort of show off, which you can put out there, put in front of the society. For example, I mean, this is very common among people as well. This has as well as a psychological effect. So this means if you are not very successful in your job or do not feel appreciated or do not see any way to get appreciation through your job in whatever sense, then it is likely, or many people then seek another way for appreciation. And this is becoming a sport. Through sport you get some sort of appreciation, or especially in our time with social media and with this egocentrism, as well as that you present your body on social media. There you get then appreciation, and this can be some sort of offset some issues, or where you in a way can pose as valuable self-value as well. But as well as we talked about moral values, you create a counter culture, because the creation of the counter culture makes it then in a way or you would have to rather ask, I mean, how could we prevent the creation of a counter culture? And this is of course a bigger political issue in that sense that this is then not confined to one person or whatever, but this is, I mean, in continental Europe, some people admitted that, some politicians admitted it, that this integration politics went wrong. It did not work properly in Germany as well as in Austria. Some people admitted it. I mean, despite the fact people still act on it, this has not changed, and I think this will never change. These are only sweet words coming out of the mouth of people who are perfect dialecticians, who do not mean any word they say, who are frauds, deceptive people, and whose grandparents and grandparents were bloody murderers. So I would not trust any word what this pitiable people has to say. I mean, this is someone who has never learned decency in his life, will not be able to feel decency, no matter how much he talks about it. However, but it is some sort of this counter culture has always an attitude of inevitability. I mean, we talked about manliness, but this is as well as about other cultures. This is not confined to men or women. Think about what, especially with cultural issues. I mean, if your culture, if your religion is being hated or in a way as considered as not fit to be part of the mainstream culture, whatever it is, then of course you create your safe spaces where you can relive your ideas, your beliefs, as well as your culture. I mean, one very striking point is language. So if you speak a language, or if it is your mother tongue, then of course you will try to, in a way, preserve it, speak with other people, whatever, and this still maintains some sort of an other culture to the existing one. I mean, especially if this existing culture tries everything to prevent you from speaking your mother tongue, then this may be resistance. I mean, of course, then we have to talk about some problems and issues with this association chain, or how we created antagonism. And it became pretty much evident that this antagonism, it is some sort of arises from a point of insufficient acknowledgement, or even from a perceived inferiority, and that the goal, we will speak about it later, then you seek a counter culture, where you in a way get fulfillment, and this would then mean that this antagonism, or this antagonistic culture would arose from a feeling of inferiority. I mean, this is one part of it, and this is beyond doubt true. I mean, if you only see in some places in North America with what is happening to black people, or to Afro-American there. However, but nevertheless, counter culture does not have to arise from a feeling of inferiority. I mean, we talked about language. Imagine you speak a language, Italian, French, or whatever. This does not mean that you create a culture which is opposite, or which you perceive is diametrically opposite to the host culture, as well as that you would not feel yourself as inferior or whatever, because you have still your own culture. And then because in our argumentation, you would only create an antagonistic culture, or a counter culture through inferiority, and this would be the only motivation, and there would not be some sort of positive fulfillment like happiness, but it is rather sadness, and we some sort of shed light onto a male perspective, and then that they try to compete with other people for resources. We try to argue that it is feasible for females as well. But however, I mean, if you only consider that in our society women are disadvantaged, I mean, why don't they create a counter culture? This is indeed very interesting, though, because you have to ask yourself, I mean, women are disadvantaged. Why don't they create a typical culture where you would see in North America with this rap culture, with these subcultures, or in France or in Germany? Why don't they seek the counter culture here? So this has, of course, issues with nationalism, with belonging to a group, but however, it some sort of makes us or demands that we have to further analyze, because it is in a way still insufficient. Why would this create something, or why don't have you some sort of subculture which is not antagonistic, but which some sort of considers itself as part of an overall culture? This is something you can partially see and detect in the US. I mean, people, for example, people consider themselves as Irish. This is very common, as Irish, but yet still as Americans or Italians, and still consider themselves as Americans, whatever. So why can't you some sort of create a positive approach to this culture? And the answer is there, of course, Italians, Poles, Germans, especially Catholics, and as well as Irish. They were not accepted in the beginning. So Irish or Italians in the beginning, when they moved to America, they were not even considered as white, only later. So this was partially due to their religion, due to their Catholicism, which was considered as alien, as un-American, because Irish, as well as in general Catholics, they follow Rome or the Pope, and they said that I mean, there is some perception, especially among Protestants, that this would be against freedom, or in a way any freedom perception. So they were not considered as well. But then by and by they were adopted into the system, into being part of the overall majority. And to this, I mean, if you only watch the US, Irish Americans play a crucial role in the US. I mean, you of course would not win an election without the support of Irish Americans. So they have become very important, as well as Italo Americans. So there, of course, you have to say, yeah, okay, is this been possible? As well as with Middle Eastern. I mean, the Middle Eastern migration into the West started, yeah, in France. It was already earlier, but into Germany and Austria, the Middle Eastern migration, or in the West in general, started after the Second World War, you could say. So these are very young migrants. So is one day will they be accepted as well, or will they remain as outcast forever? I mean, it does not look like that way. I mean, especially if you knew what went on in Austria. I mean, this was pretty much hideous. However, I mean, maybe it can change. I mean, we know about some hideous incidents against Italians and Irish in North America as well. So there may be a chance so that this subculture, counterculture, will then be adopted into the mainstream, or will become part of this culture as well. However, but in a way, this antagonism has some issues, especially where we have to ask ourselves here with antagonism, or why we or that you become a social outcast outcast, or that you are some sort of pushed in the periphery, is may have a reason in reality. It may founded in reality, but your response, especially what we said here in this role, in our example is with manliness, whatever, then this is partially illusionary. So you could, if you if you perceive that you can only compete with others in your manliness, then you have to create your manliness in a way as invincible, whatever it is. So this will uh, this will of course incur a lot of issues. This will of course incur a lot of problems. However, but it is not founded in reality, and then you have to ask yourself, yeah, how much of it is real, of this counter culture. I mean, if we talked about it, of course, the American, of course, if you're in North America, if you grow up in the hoods, in the favelas, and things are being tough, but one main issue is that you are being foreign, that you are alien, that this is part of your identity, or that you have to have perceived that you are only there where you are, or that you only have to, or that the reason why you are in the hood is because you are a foreigner, an alien, Afro-American, and so on. And then if you create your counter culture on how much of this then really is with the fact, with the reality meaning is your attitude, whatever it is. I mean, is this about survival? Is this about self? Is this about you? Is this about manliness? Is this only about getting the right girl, as you wanna say it? I mean, this is one big theme in the rap music. I mean, getting the girl, being successful, having money, and in the end, it is indeed very similar to all these demands. What the middle class follows as well, because in the middle class as well, I mean, acquiring wealth in order to show that you are laborers. This is something which is demanded, as well as having a family with children or whatever it is. It has been considered as manly, or having a lot of women. However, so they follow the same path or the same goal, if you want. So in that sense, you could say that subcultures or counter cultures, they just do away with the barriers so that everyone can access it. And if this subculture, counter culture was created because you could not partake in the society, because you were outcast, because you could not jobs or could not afford things, because you have to live in bad neighborhoods where I mean, this is unbelievable, where the next 3 to 4 miles you will not find a grocery store for whatever reason. So that you are excluded in that way, and then your subculture, counter culture enables you to boost your self-esteem, in that sense that you become a part of a society, or that you, being as outcasts, still are part of a group, a society, but yet with the same purpose like the other group as well. I mean, this is not something you should some sort of look negative on it, not at all, but this is, I think, very interesting, and which we have to keep in mind as well as, and this is that sub cultures, counter cultures, they do away with these barriers, or one reason, but as well as they establish barriers in order to bar others from it, and this bar others from it, I mean, this tough boy image, which of course excludes others as well. So it's, in that sense, it is the same, just in be. However, we will have to talk about it, and we will do it the next time. I am Adem Kievas from Ordu in Turkey. I hope you are doing fine in the pandemic and take care of yourself. Bye.
It's finally time to start firing up the grill. From city to shore, Acme is everything you need to prep for this summer season. Download the Acme app to shop for this season's essentials any way you want. Open the Acme app, clip your deals, then order your items online. An experienced Acme associate will carefully select your groceries, bag your order, and bring it right to your car or deliver right to your door. Download the app or visit acmemarkets.com for program details.